What was the last thing you saw before it hit and the video ended?
Він мене чув, і він намагався не рухатись, щоб я його не побачив.
What's the feeling when you hit your target?
Відчуття виконаного обов'язку.
This Ukrainian drone pilot is proud of his job. From his command post, located in a classified and highly protected area, the young man guides dozens of silent ships every day that search for Russian troops like relentless bloodhounds.
Is flying free, searching for something to destroy.
Once it detects its target, there's no way to escape from these modern kamikazes. The drone crashes into the victim, tearing it to pieces. Not only that, but it also captures on camera the enemy's final moments, just as the unmanned craft makes contact with its body.
Ти дійсно почуваєш себе птахом. В кінці взривається. Це ж просто неймовірно.
In this new installment of military force, we are going to accompany these 21st century pilots in their brutal hunt from a distance. We warn you that this story does not end well for the Russian soldiers. What you are seeing on screen is a Ukrainian team of drone pilots arriving at their base of operations. The work begins early, before the sun has finished positioning itself in the sky. Darkness is always a desirable cover for these men. Beyond the technology necessary to handle the miniature ships, the essential provision that this group requires are the explosives that transform simple flying machines into destructive machines that detonate upon contact with a target. It is not just any weapon. These are devices that allow for stealthy and personalized tracking, almost like trained missiles that obey their master. The Russians can try to hide behind a tree or in the depths of a trench, but in the sky of Ukraine there are kamikaze lookouts ready to swoop in. The material is shocking, but this is how war is lived in Europe. Unmanned aircraft have gained a reputation as the spearhead for Kiev's troops, and the results speak for themselves. Deaths caused by drones have increased exponentially, and their production is becoming increasingly cheaper compared to other, more ostentatious resources, such as missiles or artillery pieces. Among the units that became a reference in this new facet of war, the Achilles Battalion of the 92nd Brigade of Ukraine stands out. Its soldiers are among the most experienced pilots of these hunter aircraft and have professionalized the role to a level never seen before. If there is one thing that this bloody war will leave as a legacy, it is the incredible advance in terms of remote attacks and the unmanned devices that are used in these missions. But not everything is innovation. There is also a large dose of survival and practicality. These pilots had to learn to repair these machines using scarce resources and spare parts from destroyed machinery. The result is a hybrid force that combines the best of technology with human ingenuity. The important thing is not that the device looks elegant or futuristic, but that it is able to enter small nooks and crannies to kill the enemy. This is the point of view of a drone that was directed towards the hiding place of a Russian soldier. This plastic and metal bird entered through a window to annihilate its target. At a safe distance, a second device recorded the moment when the Kremlin's soldier transformed into a cloud of dust. With surgical precision, the hunter entered the abandoned house, finishing off the potential threat in seconds. Another point for the relentless Achilles Battalion. A curious fact is that one of the operational centers of this brigade is an old Russian ammunition warehouse that was captured.
The Achilles Battalion of Ukraine's 92nd Brigade owns it now. So sensitive its location, they won't even tell us where we are on the map.
Since June 2023, propaganda videos presented by both the Ukrainian and Russian defense ministries have had a great impact on expert opinion. These are first-person footage captured by the cameras of drones that armies use to annihilate the enemy, images that create a new and brutal way of understanding and visualizing war. The narrative changes when you can see the exact moment when a machine operated several kilometers away hits a soldier's body and blows it into 1,000 pieces. The videos usually focus on the ships that are used as missiles, the so-called kamikaze drones, which explode upon contact with their target. This can consist of vehicles, radars, bunkers, and, of course, troops that are at the mercy of these silent hunters. But these machines, as automated as they may seem, have a human element that, for the moment, is necessary for their operation. As we mentioned, drone pilots play an increasingly important role in the war. They are highly trained operators to manipulate a hybrid between a miniature aircraft and a missile. Within the Ukrainian force, these positions are coveted for a clear reason. It is a job that is done in relative safety, but which still allows them to make a significant contribution in the fight against the Kremlin, riddling its soldiers at an increasingly accelerated pace. Next, we will accompany one of these mysterious operators as he flies over Andriivka, one of the many towns that were devastated by fighting with Russian forces.
Зараз ми підлітаємо безпосередньо на лінію розмежування. Прямо з FPV-шної камери можете побачити, наскільки тут від землі немає живого місця.
Suddenly, with the help of his team, this young pilot comes across a group of Russians advancing through this ruined and apocalyptic territory. As we previously indicated, when a drone detects you, you can run, but you will never be able to escape.
О, диви, бігають, світяться. Є красиво.
Boom, right on target. The camera screen was covered in black and white stripes, similar to those that used to appear on old tube televisions. The connection was lost, but that was not a bad sign, quite the opposite. It means that the drone successfully exploded in the back of a Russian armored vehicle, blowing the impacted area to pieces. The attack was probably not enough to completely destroy the vehicle, but it was enough to compromise its functionality or even seriously injure its occupants. It is a job well done by the operator, since with a plastic piece worth a few $1,000s, he managed to damage an expensive and tactically important vehicle. Let us pause for a moment on the young man behind the glasses and controls. As you may know, when the Russian invasion began, in February 2022, many people left their daily occupations to join the local resistance force. Professionals, farmers, police officers, and all kinds of workers were transformed overnight into soldiers. They did not have the technical or tactical training, but they did have the desire to fight. This was the case of this young man, only 20 years old, a biology student who earned the nickname Darwin in reference to the famous scientist who postulated the theory of the evolution of species. In some way, he is also part of an evolutionary process, although in the field of war. From surveillance devices to drones that release grenades and, finally, to flying kamikazes. Let's listen to how the young man explains the importance of these systems in the context of the invasion of his country.
Ціль, яка рухається, вважається практично тією, в яку не можна влучити. У нас, якщо ціль рухається, і ми знаходимося над нею, це ніякої ролі не грає.
One of the major complications of this conflict is that the fighting took place both in rural and remote areas, and in large cities full of houses and buildings. The latter is a challenge, as the structures are ideal hiding places for ambushes, snipers, and, today, drone operators. In the case of Ukraine, trying to repel the invader with bombs, missiles, or artillery would also mean destroying its own country. That is why explosive devices are presented as a much more precise option with less collateral damage for Kiev's troops.
Достатньо часто ворогом використовуються багатоповерхові будівлі в якості позиції для роботи. Але із дронами камікадзе, які є у нас, ці укриття перестають бути укриттями.
The problem is that unlike artillery munitions, Ukrainian remote-controlled drones cannot be mass-produced. Instead, they are the result of a fairly artisanal process carried out in government-controlled workshops, although there are also others carried out clandestinely by committed civilians. Each piece is built from available explosives that are then adapted to attack drones. In many cases, shells are taken from old Soviet RPGs and loaded onto plastic parts created using 3D printers. Basic tools, glue and tape are used. The process may seem primitive, but the result is extremely lethal. As we mentioned earlier, Ukrainian pilots have combined cutting-edge technology with great creativity when it comes to assembling new destructive pieces. What you're seeing on screen is a device called Avada Kedavra. Yes, like Harry Potter's spell. But this drone built from an anti-tank missile charge has nothing magical about it. It is a crucial element to be able to attack the thousands of armored vehicles that the Kremlin has, and which have meant a brutal advantage during its invasion. Let's see this toy in action.
Дуже сильно броньовані, дійсно. Якщо використовувати звичайні боєприпаси, то вибухають вони доволі рідко. З такими штуками вибухають частіше. У порівнянні з артилерією і FPV. То, звісно, FPV буде сильно вигравати, це високоточна зброя.
Darwin insists that drones have a great advantage over artillery, and although his assessment may be controversial, since Russia has won several territories using this weapon, the truth is that Ukraine is in a very difficult context. It does not have the industrial capabilities of the Kremlin, and its production is cut short by the advance of the enemy. That is why drones are considered the best option for the troops in Kiev. These small unmanned aircraft have provided excellent results and have caused truly painful losses to the enemy. The most interesting thing is that these capabilities must be attributed both to the technology and to the pilots. People like Darwin, who carry out an impressive job. Seeing his workstation is impressive. The glasses can reach far beyond the limits of his bunker, allowing his mind to traverse the Ukrainian fields as if he were a falcon in full hunt. The controls generally resemble those used in video games. On the one hand, they are cheaper, but there is also a practical reason: the motor memory of many of the young operators. Because before the war, they were frequent users of these game consoles. The hellish context of the Russian invasion has allowed them to use the skills gained through years of gaming in a task that is not at all fun, but is very necessary for their country.
Плюс. Відпрацювали.
But beyond the distance and detachment that comes from fighting through checkpoints, Ukrainian soldiers are well aware that this is not a game. They understand that there are lives at stake, both their own and others, and that they must act with this enormous responsibility in mind. Let's listen to the reflections of Darwin, the star pilot of the Achilles Battalion of the 92nd Brigade of Ukraine.
Does it feel like a video game?
Ні, це не відчувається як відеогра, відчувається як змагання за власне життя і власну територію.
How many targets have you been able to hit?
За весь час скільки?
Do you keep score?
Ні.
Despite the interviewer's insistence, Darwin says that he does not keep track of the number of attacks he has carried out since the beginning of the conflict. Although it may seem strange, since we are used to snipers keeping a detailed record of the number of lives they have eliminated, you must bear in mind that the role of the drone pilot is different. His job is routine, tense, and he must use all his concentration in each of the flights, since the units that are put into service are difficult to build, and a wasted drone is a great material loss for Ukraine. He cannot be thinking about past or future cases, he must be focused on the present, hunting down that soldier who appears on the screen to eliminate him. For the Russians, drones have become a real nightmare. They are silent machines that appear when you least expect it, and thanks to their size and speed, they can chase you to the most inhospitable corners. They do not tire or have compassion, and worse still, every death they cause is recorded on camera. This is not a minor detail. Unmanned aircraft are both a weapon to annihilate enemies and a constant producer of propaganda content. In this way, fear is sown in the Kremlin troops and their confidence is destroyed. Darwin's experiences, although particular, can be applied to the rest of the Ukrainian drone pilots. Today, these solitary operators who work long hours inside secret bunkers are one of the most important pillars in the defense of their country. Beyond the result of this bloody conflict, the truth is that thanks to their spectacular performance, the future of war will not be the same. In this way, we come to the end of a video full of death captured on camera. The war in Ukraine continues, and we promise to update you with all the details. If you want to keep up to date with the news of this conflict, we invite you to subscribe and activate notifications on our channel. Without further ado, we say goodbye until the next installment of Military Force. Thank you for joining us.